All right. Good morning, afternoon. Still morning for me. Okay, so this is part 3 of the AI City, the daily kind of series we've been doing. This is episode 9. So they're broken into episodes. Each one's supposed to be every day. Our schedule's gotten a little off, but we're creating a new piece and minting it every day. I'm having just it's like keep my composure, but trying to solve these Sony issues are driving me crazy. I don't can't quite wrap my head around how that worked for so long, and now Sony did an update and basically broke the webcam stuff just because they wanted to snoop on what people were doing. So I'm going to do webcam, no webcam for today until I can figure it out. So when we last left off, we had been generating a ton of data for our city for in Blender with Google 3D Tiles. So to kind of summarize what we're attempting to do today, I lost my power toys. Yeah, my snap. Okay, there we go. So to kind of preview what we're trying to do today is I'm kind of taking on another challenging task, but with the goal of having a canvas that I can use for multiple pieces in the next, probably 3 or 4 days. All part of a story I'm telling, which I kind of allude to here and there, but I don't, necessarily give you all the details. But where we are kind of in this story is we're setting a little bit of a scene for what the world might look like in let's say 30 years, so 2054. And this is kind of the date that I have in my mind. And I've developed in my, I have notes on this, sort of a bit of a story that I've been wanting to integrate into my art. And it takes place in 2054. It's a little bit I guess it's the prequel to another sort of story idea I have, but they all connect. So if people have questions about it, just ask me. But, for the most part, I try to focus more on the art that we're making as opposed to getting into the weeds. Maybe we'll do at some point. But basically, the short version is we are trying to scout a real world location that matches the vision that I have for this particular place. And what we already did was we made a block out of what we imagined this like little intersection to be. So if I kind of close off a few things, and I'll just kind of get rid of all this and I'll bring up the block out. This is what we started with, okay? And really simple. We just started with a row of apartment or condo buildings on the right. This line is just a curve, represents a street. This represents a train or public transit. This kind of represented a bit of a terminal, like some type of a, transit terminal or hub. This represented kind of like a town square, sporting venue, something that's sort of public. And then this cluster of buildings represented almost like the core of downtown of this little area, with this being the tallest building in the city and this being, other building around it. And kind of the view that we were imagining was this view. I think we ended up moving it by accident. Let me see. Yeah, we did. So we ended up adjusting. I should rename the cameras, but the actual view for this block out that we imagine, maybe let's just duplicate this and we'll just go cam 01 block out. So the view that we were picturing was kind of like here. Not really sure why my camera won't rotate on the axis. There it is. There we go. Let's go here. And then we'll change. This is 16 mil. Now, the scale here is what's kind of messing us up a bit. But the basic idea is this. So imagine kind of like a corner apartment, and I haven't decided if it'll be this corner or that corner. The perspective's not right. In a building here, and the view is basically of this intersection. So you kind of have the main building here. You can see the transit line. You can see the road. There's sort of a road that leads off into the distance, and then something in the background, like it's another city or the rest of the city. But this was kind of what I imagined. So this was just purely in my own head, something that I thought would be a cool scene, or what I've always kind of pictured for this story. And then what we did was we went into Google Earth and we started to find a location that would match. And I kind of identified New York as being the central place that I really wanted to base this in, because I know New York, I'm comfortable with it. There's lots of assets and lots of data on New York City. The language is English, so it's easy to do buildings and signage and stuff. And then in particular, I had Brooklyn targeted for a couple of reasons. One, I'd stayed there downtown, and kind of the vibe of Flatbush and downtown Brooklyn felt like it could turn into, a very futuristic kind of metropolis city. Kind of felt like the location that you might see it. So we started scouting locations. We had, I think, 3 different locations that we were kind of interested in. We looked over here in Queens. We looked at a spot so we looked at the spot in Brooklyn just across the bridge. We looked at the spot over here in Queens, option 2. I'm not sure why that won't come up. Let me see if we can fly to, yeah. So we looked at this option over here in Queens, which kind of had the Manhattan skyline in the background. But ultimately we went with this one, which is right downtown Brooklyn. And what's really cool about this particular location is that we have the Brooklyn Tower, which is this crazy ominous tower building in Brooklyn. It's too big to even get on the screen. Very controversial. Let's update the view to this as a better view. Let's see if we can update. Capture this view. Yeah, okay, cool. This very ominous building. It's very distinctive. It feels like a very, futuristic building. There is kind of a nice, perfect corner down here. So if we scroll down and look, you can see that we have this kind of cool corner, which sets up really nicely for, kind of a town square idea. We've got this sort of building down here below. Everything kind of frames nicely in the scene because you get the big building here, the small buildings down here. We've got a line of condo buildings, including this one, which is One Flatbush, which is kind of what we imagined. This building maybe being taller somewhere here, or potentially this building. And what's really cool, kind of a happy accident, is if we scroll down here, this road, we actually have, this leads to the Manhattan Bridge, not the Brooklyn Bridge, but the Manhattan Bridge. And the Brooklyn Bridge is just over here. So you got the 2 bridges kind of behind the scene. And if we kind of look at it from the right height, you can see both bridges. So you can see Brooklyn Bridge, Manhattan Bridge, which is super cool. You also, from this angle, you can see both One World Observatory, so they're old World Trade Centers, kind of straight behind this building, which is super cool. But if you scroll over to the right, you've got all the buildings on Central Park, and you've got the Empire State Building, which I don't, it does a bad job. I think it's this one right here. Yeah, it's that right there. Just from far distance, it brings in super low quality. So really, we have a perfect spot. And this is where we're imagining our scene. And you can just kind of put the camera here and say, okay, well, like imagine this building was, say, as tall as this one. I'd say it's something like this. And now, of course, our camera angle is super not wide, but we're basically on top of the building right here. So this is our spot. Okay, so we grabbed all this data and we brought it in to Blender, and we started to do some really cool stuff. So if we get rid of our block out and we just bring in Flatbush, you can see there's our block out here. And if we change our view to object, you can see it. So here is our building block out, and here is in the kind of green and gray in the background is the actual location. You can see it lines up really nice. This was our view. The road goes down here. We kind of imagine a bit of a, town square here, big building here. I mean, it all kind of lines up perfectly. The only real, I would say, major difference is that there is no, like the road cuts this way, which we didn't have. And there's no kind of like obvious transit route that comes through here, but we did a little research, and this is where things get really fun. So if we go into Google Maps and we go to one Flatbush, okay, which is our location, and we go to our layers and we turn on our traffic, what's really wicked about this is that there are 3 lines going underneath of this. And if I go to, I just want to go to the transit map. There it is. Okay. So this is our building here or here, one of these two. I think it's going to be this one because we'll have this intersection that we can look down at. And then we have the city. We can't do 3D. But if you look at the way the trains come in, you know, we've got 2, 3, 4, and 5 running right underneath Flatbush and then curving off to the left. And then we have, what is this one? Broadway Local and the B line coming down Flatbush. So realistically, we have a really incredible intersection of 4 subway lines in New York City right here. So kind of my brain and my imagination says, well, what we can do is we can run those lines underneath, you know, realistic, and we can get the actual data for these, and we'll go grab some, you know, we'll find a GPX file or something we can bring in. But, you know, I kind of picture in the future like some technology stuff, but I think I'd like to kind of imagine a way that these lines could almost be above and below. So if you think of the subways running underneath, and obviously, you know, there's all sorts of stuff between the subway and the ground level. And obviously the ground level is, you know, got stuff in it. But realistically, if you were to decide to build, you know, an above ground, a below ground line, let's say, there is possibility you could run these lines above ground. And then we could imagine what these might look like if they ran, you know, if they ran, let's see, our building is here. So, you know, if these buildings that are coming down, they go like this. So basically there's a line going here and a line going here. So we can imagine, you know, if you're looking down from this building, we would have our line go this way and our line go this way, and we could actually run it above ground. Some type of a system, you know, futuristic, imagine, you know, elevated trains that are coming through and following the same lines as they do in New York, which I think is super cool. So that's what I would imagine from this location. So now if we go to our blockout view, this is kind of the view we have. And then I think we set up another camera slightly further back. So we'll call this cam _2 Flatbush 1 Flatbush. Okay. And if we go to this camera, this view is, if you kind of look at it, is directly over top of this condo. So in fact, if we want to be really realistic, this condo building would be kind of, if you had a corner unit here, and at that height, you know, you can decide where, whatever height you want it. But let's say, you know, the building was this tall, which is, if you kind of look at it from the side, you know, this is the tallest building outside of, you know, in this area. And then there's, you get the whole scale, which is, this is, by the way, very, very cool. We may end up just kind of doing something with this. To start. Okay, so actually on this topic, let's jump ahead. So this is where I'm trying to solve a problem, which is, okay, I got real world data now. That is the legitimate Flatbush skyline as it is right now. And, you know, we have textures, which you're going to see in a second, and we can light this. And what I'm trying to do now is tell this part of the story, which is really about this location. I can hopefully create a bunch of pieces of art with the same data. So for example, this might be a cool start. We could make like a holographic projection of this, or we could make a stylized version. We can use this to kind of create something, call it a day, get something new done. And that's how I'm hopefully going to catch up as we go. So as an example, this is super cool. And I think like we could do something kind of fun with this. Just for starters, okay? So this is our exact camera location. It's all here. And because this is real world, this is where it gets really, really neat, is if we go over here, we change the parse out. So let's go, sorry, this camera here, we change the viewport display and the parse out. We can kind of get this down to like where we can barely see the outside. This is our rendered view over here. This one we have kind of full control over. But if we bring our view over, I would say something like this. Looks pretty cool. From a framing standpoint, we could frame it this way or that way. But like, let's just center frame it for now. And then we can even change our angle. So let's just bring it down. And again, what's really, really wild about this is now we're going to be in a situation because we're running to scale. Now, if we look at the actual scene, you can get the building dimensions. So this building's 447 wide by 83 long, and it's 327 meters. Let's find out. I don't know if this is right. How tall is the Brooklyn? It should be good. There you go, 325. 327. So this is what's so cool about this is now we can actually use real camera settings and we can get like our proper depth of field and kind of we can do everything that we really want. And I'll show some examples of that as we go. But everything is proper scale. Okay, so let's do a couple things. Just to show you, we actually have some real data that we brought in. So this is basic building textures. There's nothing unique about this. It's just basically putting a bunch of brick and stuff in here. Nothing super cool, but we actually have the actual building data. So we have all the subway lines, all the streets, all the intersections, all properly lined up in this scene, which is really, really neat and something kind of cool that we can work with. We also have, if we flip this over, so we go to the bottom, which is the terrain, it's basically the ground. We have street view. We also have a really good satellite image from Mapbox. Now this got super slow. Now, I got to figure something out with this file. This file is like 1.6 gigs, which is way too much for a... hold on. So this was happening to me before. And I got to figure out what it is. I don't know if it's the size of the texture, but I didn't turn anything else on. It's just this file. And I don't know if it's like something I was using as a plugin, but something is just totally, something just totally crushes Blender. And it's like, you can't even move. So let's go do a little investigation. This is like the unfortunate part of doing these things in live streaming is like, if now I have an issue like this, I mean, I have to troubleshoot it because I can't do anything, but like doing it on the live stream is a little bit frustrating. So nothing is happening at all in here. The textures are on a D drive, which could be a problem. Like this is it's basically frozen. Let me see what the activity monitors do. What is it called on Task Manager? So I mean, nothing crazy is happening. GPU's not even really fired up, 20%. Yeah, it's like done. Okay, so we're going to close this and we're going to try to open it up again. figure out what's going on. I noticed the issue mostly when I installed like a stability diffusion plugin, and fuck, it's so frustrating. So I'm going to try something because I wonder if. So, I mean, obviously it's a massive file, right? But I know there's a setting in here with load UI, which I'm going to get rid of because I feel like that one causes something to do with the interface. Okay, so at this point, everything is super smooth. There's no issues, and we can turn off all the neighborhoods, keep Flatbush, turn off Google 3D tiles. Everything is great. Change our view to 20,000. Clip start to 1 meter, and now we got a building. Okay, so let's go look at our plugins and let's see what's enabled. So what I'm looking for is if that image, I installed this just last night. I wonder why it's not there. It was called Stability Blender. It's not there. So I'm not sure. Let's take a peek because it happened when we changed our texture. So if we look at Streets OSM, bring up this, let's go shader editor, and let's go look at what's going on with this. So let's unpack. I wonder if I'd like to change this. It might be the fact that it's loaded so many of these files into memory. VRAM is low, memory is low. Yeah, see, it's off again. Man, that's frustrating. Okay. I have a couple of theories. One is that me putting the cache on my D drive is causing a bit of a nightmare. I'm just going to do some size checking. So this is the tiles. This is only 8 megabytes, interestingly. So this is all the OSM data. This is not that big. This one's a big one. That's probably Manhattan. These are the overlays. Let's check these. Even like my whole machine is just properties, 9 megs. Like even to calculate, it's got to be what's going on in here. Textures are not that big. So half a gig for all these textures. So I'm just going to try to bring in so I'm just going to bring in just this data. See if it crashes. So this is just the Flatbush stuff. There's our image. Everything looks good. It's got to be that Google data. It's massive. Okay, so like this looks all fine. This is not doing anything weird. Buildings look good. Terrain looks good. And then if I go to my materials, I think it lost the original materials that I set up, even though I set them to. That's weird. Okay, I'll have to go figure that out. It's always something. Yeah, so this is working, but I lost my textures. And it seems like if opening this file is just a recipe for disaster. It's opening this list because it's generated yeah. So whatever is going on there, that's what's causing it to crash. So it's because what happens when Google imports data, it creates thousands of textures. And I mean, I imported a very, very small region. But this is like unusable. And I've done this before and it didn't cause this kind of issue. So here's a good quick check. So if we open up the last version, so we went with, what did we go? This one. This doesn't have Google data in it. It has all the neighborhoods. It has Flatbush. So this has everything in it. And this is before I think we did Google. So let's kind of see if we can get this one to crash. So this is interesting. So it's compiling shaders. Just gotta write some stuff down. So that worked. It just took a little bit of time. And performance is not perfect, but it works. And we ended up with all the buildings in Manhattan. Not everything is working pretty good. And just to kind of do a test, if I get rid of, let's get rid of this one. Just go down to this file. So this is what I was showing before. If I go into here, and I go to images, and I pick Mapbox. we get this version even is slow. And now I wonder if it's that dream, because you can see this dystopian New York City. This was me attempting to run. I almost feel like, as annoying as this is, I almost feel like I should just rerun it. Because I feel like even the way that we tiled it, we had mentioned that before, was going to cause me issues down the line. Yeah. Okay. Let's try it. Just quickly looking at the simple versus realistic. No. Okay. So let's think through this for a second. So one Flatbush. No. Okay, so here is our thing. And if I wanted to do 1x1 tiles, which I think is probably the right way to do this. So these are 1x1. So this is our kind of our intersection. So the problem is, to do this, around it, we go like 1 over here, 2, 3, just to get this perspective. So 1, 2, 3 tiles. And then we would need either to just generate. Now I feel like we're going to have to work on the New York skyline somewhere else and bring it in, because, we can generate like some large tiles, but the last time I generated basically this whole thing. Okay, but add a 2 tile, 2x2. Which they're not exact. Now we would have probably to this corner where the Barclays Center is. Now we would go 1 tile, 2 tiles, 3, 4, probably 5, 6 to get the Manhattan skyline. If you went like 1, 2, you can fit a 2, pretty much get the whole thing, and we would do it in you know, we'd probably go like here, right? So we go 1, 2. I'm just thinking, can we line it up? I think we can. I think 2 by 2 might be okay. So I don't know, it would be nice, honestly, to have some precision here. So we can kind of, let's just test this. So say we wanted this tile over here. We just have to figure out, like if we took this extent, I think it's this way. So if I took this extent and typed in 4O, can't type them. Okay. But I know I can copy them. So I wonder if I could use ChatGPT for this. This might be a bit of a stretch, but it's always worth trying. So I'm trying to download a grid of Brooklyn, a grid of tiles in Brooklyn and Manhattan from Blender OSM. The format it accepts is the upper, so it goes this would be longitude. So this would be, this is lat, right? No, that's longitude. Latitude first, then longitude. So this is latitude, and this is longitude. That just go north? No. Right, longitude this way, latitude this way. Right, so our latitudes are this one. Okay, so lat first is our north-south, and then, okay, so it's doing lat and then long. So, and in the other order that I copy it in, it's doing so I just got to solve this. Okay, so it's doing right, lat extent, long extent, okay. So like what I'm thinking is if I pick my coordinates here and I want to do 2 kilometer block up, obviously the lower bound of this can become the upper bound. Sorry, the upper bound of this becomes the lower bound. So this upper bound gets copied down here, which would move it. But then the problem is how much, right? Like how to measure it. So that's why I'm trying to see if I can get ChatGPT to generate the number. So like I'm going to pick this extent. I'm going to say this is the first one. So I'm going to say this, if you copy this, okay, so original, so block 01 Flatbush is, I'm just pasting this over into, it pasted it as negative 73. So it does the left longitude, then it does the lower lat, then it does the right long, and then it does the upper lat. Okay. So accept is the extent of the tile in this format: left long, lower lat, right long, upper lat. Example, here. I want to take the example bounds and generate a 2 kilometer by 2 kilometer tile. Example is our starting 2 kilometer by 2 kilometer tile. Directly north of this location without having overlap. Okay, so basically, we'll see. It may be able to do it. So what I'm hoping is it can generate me a tile directly above using, well, it's doing like data analysis. So coordinate systems in GIS is one of the most mind-bending fields in my mind. It's the way that projection great. The way that projection maps work, and the way a map is projected on a globe. Obviously, the Earth is round, if you believe that. And when you're looking at a flat map, there's different ways to project it. And I learned kind of in previous career a little bit about it, but just something as simple as when you're looking at like something like Google Earth with all of the coordinates of all the places on Earth, the actual accuracy is very low, versus if you want to go to like say a certain projection mapping for an area like Washington DC, there's a different projection mapping you can use that kind of fits within the certain area that will be a higher quality and just gets quiet. Okay, so it's done it. Let's try it. So let's go into Blender and let's paste this coordinate system. Okay. So left long, right lat. It reversed it. So how did it do that? Huh. I'm not imagining this. 667 670 695. Okay. So it rounds it up. It rounds it up and it puts it in. Now if I take this one, which should be that same data, and I paste it in, it removes that. Okay, so let's grab this. Okay, I think it did it. Maybe I was just imagining it. Okay, so this should be the coordinate system we just wanted. And we're just going to go grab the terrain. This is the first easy test. So we grab a terrain and we make sure our view is set, to something really wild. clip start 1 meter. And it's always going to center our first tile. Okay, so this now, let's go to GPT and see what it gave me. Can you give this in the original, in the example format? Okay, so it's giving us new coordinates. So let's paste this. So it changed the upper and lower bounds, which is a good sign. Didn't change. Okay, so pretty close. Little gap. Let's just make a note. It looks like there's a small gap between the tiles. They are aligned perfectly on horizontal, though it's possible that the original coordinates I gave are not exactly 2 kilometer by 2 kilometer. Could you adjust the originals and the new coordinates to be exactly 2 kilometer by 2 kilometer? So in here, you know, you can notice it. Oh, see, it's even 1.9. So like as I move this around, it obviously is rounding. So, you know, if I go here, that's not exact, right? It could be 2.01, 2.0, whatever. It's sort of just rounding it up. We want exactly 2 kilometer by 2 kilometer if we can. And we could do this in like QGIS and try to like tile it out, but I've had enough pain and suffering with QGIS lately. Let's see what it gets. But I mean, pretty good, right? It got, you know, just a tiny gap between the two. So if we could do this, we could ask it to generate all the tiles, and then we'll name them, you know, we'll grid them out properly. Okay, let's see what it gets. Okay. Please provide these in the format I asked for. Okay. Let's try it. So let's kill these. Let's go back and paste the new coordinate and let's import. And now let's grab the next import. Paste. Oh, fucking ChatGPT is so good. How crazy is that though, right? Like it went and got the exact tile system. So we're going to grid this, and it's going to be a little counterintuitive, but I think we're going to go... Well, I'm not sure the right way, but I was going to say this is 01. As long as I know what it is. So 01 Flatbush. This is 02. And I just want to give it a name. Well, we'll bring the data in. I think this was something Park. John Barry, I think was the name of the park. Okay, so now let's say, give me one exactly left of the original. Let's see now if it has to go. Yeah, so now it's going to analyze this and hopefully give me the right one. So the beautiful thing about this is we'll have the real coordinates, right? We'll be able to go in and say this is our original tile. And we can say this is 01 Flatbush. I'm just making a note. It doesn't matter. And then this is 02 John Barry. We'll give these neighborhoods a second. And now it's giving me another one. Let's see how this works. So paste. That didn't work, right? Okay, let's try paste. So what did it do? Didn't get anything. Weird. So the longitude shouldn't, the latitude, okay, now my brain is confused. The original tile was this, which is, okay, so it adjusted the latitude, which worked. Now it's given us a new tile. It should have the same latitude as this. It does. And it should have adjusted the longitude, which it did. So where did it put this tile? Like nothing happened. Okay. Something's wrong. Oh. I mean, these should be minus. Minus. This is minus. Huh. Like the extent should be actually, yeah, so that's fine. And then minus 73. Oh, it flipped it, I think. I think it flipped it. I think something is off. It's this minus 73.01713 is too large of a longitude change from minus 73.99347. It messed up something. Because if you look at the way that this worked, if you look at, the original tile, the gaps between these numbers are very small, right? 40 is a small, small gap. And then when you look at what it did north, it adjusted the latitude, and it just made a minor adjustment, right? It pulled this in and it dropped it. I mean, they're small numbers. But then when it generated this one, it looks like this number is way off. So it ran a bunch of code and tried to do it. That's interesting. It recognized what I said. And I mean, I don't know if mathematically it makes sense. We could try it. I don't know again if it works, but I could just try adding, is if you look at this original tile, it's a little bit trippy to get your head around this. So it goes from here to here. So this should be the bounds. So this should be the beginning. So it should be minus this. This should be the same. So it should be comma this. Then it should be, it's this one, which is, no, this should be the right bounds, sorry. It should be this. It should just be, and it's subtract, so we should add trying to figure it out. I don't know if this makes sense, but if you look at the net difference between these two, it's so minus 73,99347 minus 70. Well, let's just do it positive. 73.99347 minus 73.96981. So it's a difference of 0.02. So if I take that and I subtract it from so if this is the left bounds and this is the right bounds, left bounds is higher. So we would take the left bounds. So this is the difference. So we would take the left bounds, which is 73.99347, and we would add 0.02366. So our new coordinate would be 74. So I don't know, I'm just going to try this. So the new coordinate on the, so if it is left bound first, then upper bound, yeah. Okay, so then, so I think it's lower bound, yeah. So then lower bound, which is the same. Then the right bound should be the same as this. Okay, and then the lower bound should be the same. So if it goes left bound, lower bound, right bound, upper bound, which makes sense because this upper bound here would be the lower bound of this one, then this number should work. If in fact the actual math is just like you can create it by moving it the same amount, I don't know if that will work or not, but let's try it. See if this has got anything. New, old format, same format, please. So, did it get the same number as me? It didn't. So, but it closer. So, let's try mine first. It got the same number except this number here. So let's try mine and see what happens. So this is my guess. A little bit of overlap. Although there is a bit of overlap here though too, so I guess mine generated. Interesting. Okay, let's see what it did. So it nailed it. I thought it did. No, it didn't. Wait. Mine though. Okay, so I think we're getting really close. If we want to be precise, the overlap is the same. So it just looks like it generated to me the wrong overlap. So I think I could do this. I think I could do this on my own. So if I take my original numbers and I'm just going to make an attempt at the second one. So I know the bounds. So I'm going to just paste this in. So I want to go up so it's going left bound, lower bound, right bound, upper bound. So the bottom bound is going to be the top of the upper. Nothing else is going to change. And then I just need an upper bound, which is going to be exactly the difference between so 4067744 okay, 40.69545 minus 40.6744. So this is our net difference. So this is our latitude. No, yeah, our latitude diff. So basically, if I take the upper bound, which is 40.69545, and add 0.02105, I get this number. So now if I make that our upper bound, okay. Ready? So this is my original, okay? And I'm going to paste in my new number and I get import. Oh, it still overlaps. Interesting. Okay, so so the problem is like I'm going to sort of think about overlap, because when we overlap an image, that's fine. We could crop that image, but when we have geometry, if this tile is overlapping another building, what do we want? If it's right on the edge, we'll have the two parts of the geometry, I think. Okay, let's just try this. So this generated the same thing, which is kind of odd. Even though, like, if I put in the number it gave me, then maybe it's just a rounding situation. I think it gives me, it gave me even more overlap. So it generated more overlap than I generated. Which, if, the overlap is okay. And this just could be a precision issue. Like, it could be, I don't know. It could just be precision. It feels like that time it even got worse. Okay, so let's just try to grab the street map data, and we're going to pick Flatbush to start. And let's just do single object to keep it simple. Okay, I know what I did wrong. So what we want is to go from active, which is this one, and we want to move it to Flatbush, and now we hit import. Yeah, take a little longer, probably like 30 seconds. There's our building data. Okay, so now let's see what happens. So now we're going to do the same thing, but we're going to change to this one, which is, let's rename it O2, John Berry. Okay. Switch this to John Berry, and then we want to grab the extents and hit import. I'm just curious what it does on the edges. Because in some ways it's better to have overlap, right? Because then you can crop it out versus if you put, even if there's a tiny gap, it's sort of gonna, you better have overlap than have a gap is what I'm trying to say. So let's just kind of look at what it did. So first of all, the buildings line up perfectly. It looks like it recognized, interestingly. So first of all, oddly, it didn't line up the heights, which I find interesting, which it should. And it placed these buildings higher than these buildings. And it looks like in this case, like these buildings, I don't know if it lines up. It looks pretty good. Like, is that proper? Okay, so let's see. Let's grab the image overlay, and we're going to grab the map Nick, set default material. We'll pack it for now. Okay, so let's go Flatbush. I think that should do it. Okay, so if I switch over to view, we have, and then let's go to this one, and let's change it to this, and let's import. So I just want to see the lineup, and then we can make our decision. Because I mean, we can just quickly tile this like this if we're okay with the overlap. Otherwise, I got to kind of try to get it exactly right. So it looks like it did. I mean, it looks perfect, doesn't it? Am I imagining it? I mean, it's definitely got to be perfect. That's pretty cool. Can't even tell where the line is. But what did it do with the buildings? It's like it just picked. It's somehow it just figured it out. I mean, wait, now the gap is off. Okay, but that's because of the height. Like which that building came across, this building. So it picks. It just kind of picks whichever tile the building is on. And I don't think it caused any issues at all. So I think our overlap is going to be good. I mean, you can't even tell where that overlap is. So the line is here. All the lines are perfect. If we go to the view and we look at like this building cluster is on this side and this side. This was the only one that looked a little off, but I think I think it's right. I think, yeah, the building is, so it put this building here and that building there. It's crazy. These line up. I mean, maybe not perfect. Bit of an overlap there, but perfectly. Okay, so, damn, that's crazy. Okay, so I think we got our system. So I think we could just do this mathematically now. I don't even think we need to do, I don't even think we need to do, use ChatGPT. It's too risky. Okay, so I'm going to take a quick 5 minutes. And what I'm going to do when I come back is, now that I have these tiles, I'm going to just generate, a grid so that everything is nice and organized. And I'm going to give it a numbering system, and I'm going to give it a naming system. And then I'm going to like really watch the file size of this thing, and in particular, what it's generating from an image, because what I think my instincts are telling me that this is what's causing the issue. And I don't know how necessary this is going to be. Because I think like, unless this textures have lighting in them, like, unless I could go in and look at the shader and find like, okay, where's all the, like, where is all the glass of this? Plaster, roof tiles, plaster, brick. So let's take, we'd have to take a building. Say, okay, like this here, that's just a texture. It's this plastic texture. So it looks like okay. But like, unless we could, use it to decide, like, at least we could use it to say like, all these windows need to have emission. I don't want to get rid of it, but it feel like this is where this file gets crazy. So let's save this anyway. We'll just go into V2. We'll just call this 09 AI City V2.0. Save. Okay, I'll be back in 5 minutes. Okay. Cool. So let's just generate our grid from here on out. So to do the next one, which is going to be this area right here, what we want to do is take Flatbush. Here, I guess I could show you guys what I'm doing. So we could take Flatbush, copy it down, 03, I don't know what this is called, west. rest Brooklyn for now. And if we just kind of look at the conventions, again, this is the left barrier, the bottom, the right, and the top. So we know that the top and the bottom are not going to change. We know that the right barrier is going to be the left barrier of the last one. And then all we got to do is calculate the difference between essentially 73.99347 minus 73.96981. That's our net on the longitude. So it should just be, those should be the diffs, right? Like this is the numbers, because they're all 2 square kilometer ranges. So I think if I take this and I go to this number, 73.99347, and I just add 0.02366, we get this number. And then we want to put this in here with a minus. Okay, so our new number is this. We go back, we go to terrain, we paste and import. And there it is with the overlap, which we know is good. So 03 West Brooklyn. And now we'll go 1 north. It'd be kind of nice to know like what's actually here, to be honest. Brooklyn, Manhattan. So Brooklyn Heights. I'll do it that. I mean, these aren't exact, but we'll go here. And then, I don't know, this one is, I guess, part of Dumbo, although it's here. So we'll just use Dumbo for now. Okay, so now we want to go up. Actually, while we're here, we can now just grab the OpenStreetMap data. We'll pick Brooklyn Heights, and we'll go from active. It's like it may have adjusted it slightly. I feel like it's just like a rounding. Yeah, it rounds it. That's what it is. Which is fine. Okay. Let's go import. And then let's calculate while we're waiting for that. We can calculate our next one. So 04 is Brooklyn. We'll call this Dumbo. And this is Brooklyn Heights. And then this one is north of this one by the same amount. So the way that you want this to work is it's going to have the exact same northern restrictions. Okay, so nothing changes about the north-south for this, and this will be the test to see if this works. But in terms of the lat long, it should be the same as this one, right? So this Brooklyn Heights, sorry. Yeah, same as this one. So same, same, same I'm getting these mixed up. Okay. Our latitude is our height, and our longitude is our, call it width. So it should have, I think think it's opposite. Let me just do this over. Okay, so this is Brooklyn Heights, which is the one right below it. So we want the same height data as John Berry, which is these ones, right? I don't know if this is the same as what I did or not. And then Brooklyn Heights will have the same latitude as, sorry, Dumbo will have the same latitude as Brooklyn Heights. So it should be these ones. Which are the same. Okay, let's try it. So we'll go to terrain, we'll paste and import. There it is. Okay, thank God. And then just a quick check that we still have the same thing. It's just a height thing, which is easy. We can line these up. And it looks like there is some duplicate here. So some of the buildings overlap, but we can fix that pretty easy after the fact. Okay. Now we grab, we'll call this 04 Dumbo. And now we'll go and take the OpenStreetMap data. We'll pick Dumbo and we'll import. This is kind of tricking my brain. I wish I could get the webcam going, but this is getting some lower Manhattan data too. So, you know, what we'll probably end up doing in our imaginary world is we'll kind of, you know, we'll kind of combine, like we'll remake new neighborhoods. So even though we have names now, you know, in our imaginary version of Brooklyn, you know, we'll rename this stuff potentially, right? And that way we have the neighborhoods lining up. This one's taking a lot longer. There it is. You know, so that's part of Lower Manhattan. I think that might include, yeah, One World Trade. Okay. So, you know, this might be actually good for us to start. Let's not overcomplicate it, because if we kind of look at our camera angles and stuff, you know, that's the skyline that we really need. Yes, we have some stuff missing over here, but like really that's getting into, you know, like the Jersey skyline. So really we're not missing much. And I'm going to say this is probably going to be enough. This is probably actually perfect. So we have 4 terrains right here, and they're, you know, pretty much lined up with some overlap. Now we can go from active and we can change this to image overlay, and we can grab here, just have to make sure we're getting the right one. And let's import. Yeah, this makes things nice and clean. 4 tiles, you know, we can put our camera back in here. We'll shoot out that way. We'll get some of the Manhattan skyline, some of Brooklyn. So we'll go to Dumbo, we'll change this, and then we'll make just import. We don't need to set the bounds. I would like to get these files unpacked and like the actual files organized, maybe so they're not in the blend file. But let's save this. Okay, so check it out. Same thing as before. We just have a little bit better, you know, setup here. So let's map these ones. So this is going to be, this is this. This is this. The numbering is probably, let's go I mean, let's go in grid. No, let's go. One, two, three, four. That's fine. Okay, so John Barry, we'll just do it in the order. Brooklyn Heights, Dumbo. Okay, and then what we want to do is, we'll do it at the end. So this is the terrain. You can bulk rename too in Blender. This is just not enough. Okay, and then for these, we want to go buildings. Okay. And then all right. I know we had a camera in here somewhere. Maybe we didn't. We don't. Okay, cool. All right, so for lights, let's just add a light, sunlight, and let's add a camera, and we'll put the camera in here, and let's grab where this camera is, and we're gonna go what we did. Okay. Now, we don't want to move this, I think, because it might cause issues. But let's just bring this back up here. So there's our first camera. Get the scale up. So set to 100. So it makes kind of sense. And then we know that our building is right here. Flatbush Avenue. I think this is it. Yeah. Okay, so there's our first camera. And let's bring it down. And as I was kind of showing before, you know, the height, something like this. We want to put it right on this corner. And we can now go into it. And for now, let's go with 1080 by 1350. And change our perspective to 16. Okay? So we have the street corner set up now. And we're going to call this cam 01 1 Flatbush, which is 1 Flatbush is our current proposed like location of this little condo thing we're going to do. Okay. Now let's make sure our view, we're going to go 1 to 25K, which should be enough to get us to the skyline. And same with our camera, 1 to 25K. You can also adjust the lens shift, which compensates for any motion, or sorry, any perspective of a 16 mil camera. So if we look at this now, we have really what we want, which is we've got kind of our view down to the Brooklyn Bridge or to the Manhattan Bridge. We probably can't, maybe we can just see the Brooklyn Bridge here. We can definitely see One World Trade Center. I think that's enough. Yeah, 25. It's probably enough. And it's really cool because we can do measurements and stuff in here. Again, it's to scale. It gets a little bit hard to work with, but this is it. Okay. So here's like a little bit of magic before we go. We're going to save this again because my autosave's not working. Right now, the view is obviously this. It's nothing much. But if we go to world and we do a new world and we open up a texture like, let's say, something that's kind of got a nice, like probably this one. And we look at our sun. And this is kind of cool because this is the physical sun deal. So if we go to world and we turn on, we're not going to turn on physical atmosphere yet, but if we turn on sun position, we'll do sun plus HDRI. And we're going to bind the texture to the sun in a second. Let me go add-ons, real sun position, I think it's called. Yeah, that's this one. This should allow us to actually get the location. I just can't remember where it is. Oh, that'll change this. We won't do the real world location yet. Okay, so let's turn on rendered mode. See what we get. Okay. So first thing we want to do is we want to map the sun. Okay, so we want to map the sun to the sun in here. So it looks like the sun is, looks like it's up there. It's a pretty cloudy day. Let's try maybe something with more dramatic lighting. This might be pretty good. So the sun location's here. So we can pick our sun location in the viewport. There it is. So there's the sun location. I think that got it right. And now let's go back to our view. And now I think, let's see. Yeah, this will rotate both the sun, I think, and we're going to just bring this up so we can kind of see this. So this is the sun location, so which way it's facing. You kind of see this as it goes here. It's kind of not the best view, but yeah, I think that's the way it's facing. So if I rotate this, I'm not sure why that disappeared, but you can see we can bring the sun around. You know, we can say sunset is here. But the thing that's interesting about this is, like, because we're binding it to this HDRI, if we wanted a true sunset or a night scene, we would have to find an HDRI that would have that sun, you know, sunsetting. So I'll show a couple options, but let's line it up with the road. That's kind of a cool scene. And then I'm not 100% sure what the distance does. Let's just try something. So there's, yeah, okay. Oh, it moves. That's interesting. It moves the sun off of the screen so we can kind of see it. Oh, that's kind of neat. So you can kind of see where it's coming in. So you can see that the sun is sort of coming in from that angle. Now, I'm going to argue that that's too high for that HDRI. So we can just go, we can unbind it and pick again, and we can kind of assume that it was lower. So I would say, oh, here's this is probably even better way to do it. So if we kind of look at our scene, it's off, right? So we can just do it again. There's the actual sun location right there. So now we have our sun lined up with our HDRI, and now we can play with our mount. So this is the sun. This is just the sun lighting the scene. And, you know, you can go with the sun and you can change the amount. So that's just the sun lighting, you know, coming up and down. This is just the HDRI lighting the scene. And you can kind of tweak the two. To kind of get the lighting that you want. So there you go, right? You can, now there's other little tricks that you can do here. Like you can change the way that how much light you're getting from the sky, combined with how much light you're getting from, like you're visually seeing, to make it kind of balance a bit better. But, you know, we can kind of come up with, again, you know, you need both, right? So you have, you know, the sun that's actually causing this nice, you know, light pattern coming through here. And then the HDRI is kind of what's lighting the whole thing, and you can kind of balance them out and figure it out as you go. And you can also like adjust the exposure and stuff, which we'll get into. But I would say that's a pretty good start. So let's go 2.1 and let's save this. Okay. What did I want to do? Oh, here's just a quick thing. If I go to the world now, and I want to change the rotation, it should do both. So if we want to line up that light perfectly, right? So 338.1, 338.5, 339. There you go. You know, so you get kind of a cool shadow effect coming down this street. And again, there's just the lighting, full HDRI. And what kind of gets fun is, you know, if you get into the balance, you can also go into your color management, and you can see like we're in filmic. So this is standard. So filmic log, filmic, we can change the look. So different contrast amounts, none, but we can also change the exposure. Right? So if we get down to something like that, we can kind of dial it in. Now, I would argue that if we could get some lighting, hey Sean, how you doing? You know, if we could get some lighting in here, let me know if you have any questions or want to know what I'm working on, or, you know, just go nuts. And you know, the cool thing, obviously, I mean, look, was just early stages, but composition wise, it's near perfect. In fact, maybe, you know, lean the camera out a little bit to kind of get this, if we want to really line this up. I don't know what building that is, but whatever building that is, it's right on the edge. And actually, really interesting. We can try this after. You can import OSM buildings. Oh, good luck, Sean. Good luck, man. I've just been like live streaming almost every day. This latest project I've gone, I think, every day in November. There's multiple parts to each one. I have to organize the videos. They're a lot. What I would say is, I would argue that, like, if you're interested in what I'm doing now, which is basically I'm working on a bit of a digital recreation of Brooklyn, New York City, go in and look for this called the AI City, and we're on part 3. So there's going to be a 3-part series. So look for part 2 and 1 to kind of figure out how we got here. But a lot of it is just me troubleshooting and fixing things. I'll try to summarize it. But then, the end of the whole series, I'm going to create like a summary video of each of the individual pieces and kind of explain how I did them. And I've been using some AI tools to see if we can get, summary. So don't stress yourself out about following. But basically the summary is I kind of specialize in recreating real life locations in 3D tools. Right now I'm in the middle of a 30-day challenge where I'm trying to make a new piece of art every day for 30 days. A bunch of people have bought like a pre-pass that got them all 30 days. And every day I mint a piece as NFT and airdrop it or send it to them. In terms of the work, every work that I create has to use some type of real world data. That could be like physics simulation. It might be terrain data. It might be building data. It might be 3D objects that I've scanned. Anything. I try to integrate it in the work. And in the 30 days, I'm trying to tell a story. And so it's super kind of complicated, like a puzzle of like, okay, what part of the story am I telling? What piece am I bringing in? How do I kind of make this all fit and connect? But today is my big, today and last night is my big leap into, okay, let's get actual building data from a city, find a location that matches what I want to do, and, try to sort of work with that data with some other tools and ideas. So how we got here, just to kind of update you, is I imagined this block. So if I go to my collection, I think, and I look for, there should be one called the block out. So if I go grab, I lost track of where I was. Here, okay. So I made this block out in Blender to start the stream. So if you go back to episode 1, you're going to see it. And this is before I even really knew this location. So what I did was I basically just kind of drew out I'll turn off everything else for now. So I basically drew this thing out, right? And I said, okay, I'm imagining a building system where there's going to be an apartment building on the corner of this building. There's a street, a major street that comes through, and a transit system, so like a train route, some type of hub, some type of like public square building, some type of other kind of like town, like high density buildings over here, and then like a big high rise, something that is kind of iconic to this area. So I was like, okay, I want to find this. And I went into Google Earth and I did a big, long search. I looked at a whole bunch of different locations. And at the end of it, I came to this one, which is Flatbush Avenue in Brooklyn. This is called the Brooklyn Tower, this super ominous, crazy building in New York City. If I go to my pure ref, you can see some references. Let's grab this, load. So I even, this was the block out originally. Here's some ideas. And then I found that building. And this is this little square here with kind of this cool, cathedral looking thing. This insane building And then this viewpoint turned out to be perfect. So now in Blender, I was able to get, I'll hide this block out. And what I was actually going to do is I was going to try to use some AI tools to feed it this layout and see if it could generate like a city block that looked like this. So that's kind of part of this experiment. But now if I close this one off, put the block out up here and bring back the neighborhoods, you can see I found that location in Blender. I downloaded 4 tiles. So I downloaded 1, 2, 3, 4 from OpenStreetMaps data, which includes both the terrain. So the actual, you can kind of see this park over here has a bit of a hill, which is kind of cool. And there's a monument. So I don't know the name of this thing. It's called Brooklyn Heights or Brooklyn Park or something. You can see it over here. Fort Greene Park. And I've also brought in the building data. So you can see we've got all the buildings around the area, and everything lines up perfectly and matches. So I have 4 neighborhoods, 1, 2, 3, and 4, including Manhattan in the background. So now that I have real data brought in with some basic textures, it's all very loose, but it's got something. I now have something that I can properly thanks for the promotion, but I'm good. I appreciate it. Nobody wants to come watch this right now. It's too technical and too crazy. No, okay, so yeah, Sean, I'm gonna try to get rid of that message so that we can see the other ones. I don't actually know how to do it. Where'd it come from? Twitch. I'll have to go grab it. So there's a couple things. It's all experimental, Sean. So there's not actually a workflow that I think off the shelf is going to work. There's a couple experiments. So Stable Diffusion, which is an AI tool that you can run on your local machine, which I do have installed right now and set up on my machine, can accept essentially a sketch. And what I've seen people do is I've seen them block out a basic Blender scene in Blender with just buildings, or just, objects like object A, object B, object C, like very simple, and use it to generate an AI scene. I don't feel like it's great right now. Hold on. But I figured over the course of me, this whole month of some different things that I'm working on, I might be able to pull off, maybe training my own model or something, because what I ultimately want is to be able to do this, like give Stable Diffusion this data, which, by the way, like I can generate now a depth map, which will show all the depths of all the buildings. And I can really generate some cool stuff with this style. Like if I go over here and change this to, obviously shade flat, to solid, there's the blocks, and we can do all sorts of stuff in terms of recoloring these things to, there's a lot of stuff we could feed basically into AI. So like, what if I gave it this? Will it generate something? And, I can go render out right now. If I go into my depth passes, I can render out a mist pass or a depth pass, Z pass. And if I render this image right now, thank you. I appreciate it. Now, like just as like a little sidebar, I think if I add a satellite image in here on the base, and I add the water in the background, and I add some mist, I think I can get a pretty decent image just from this without making any other changes. The only thing that's going to be jarring is this building. I guess all the other buildings, but what I've been thinking about is replacing some of the buildings with kitbash files. So like people have made buildings already from New York, and putting a patio, like putting an actual like corner view so that I can have something in the foreground and blur the background, in which case this I think will look photorealistic. We're a long way away from having, the whole scene look photorealistic in broad daylight, but I think we have data here and there's some procedural tools to create buildings and texture buildings that use the footprints of the actual buildings itself. And again, that's my like modeling it by scratch idea. But from an AI standpoint, I think if I give this sort of the layout as this gets better, I think we could get to a point where AI would actually be able to, generate something that looks like this. Because that's the biggest challenge right now. And I've used these tools. Like if I ask for a photorealistic render of downtown Brooklyn, it'll do it, but it'll mess stuff up. Like it'll put One World Trade Center in Brooklyn. It'll have multiple buildings that look the same. It won't really truly. What I want to do is I want to almost like texture it. I want to say like, give me realistic building textures for New York and project it onto this scene, but don't mess my buildings up. Like don't, yeah. So if it's not here yet, it's coming. And I think we're, maximum months away. So I want to be ahead of it. And I at least want to have some tools set up, and maybe there's some models that I can kind of work on myself and train or whatever. So let me just show you one thing. So we have a mist pass. So if we go over here and set up a viewer and bring our image in, you can see that we have our image, but if we grab the depth, oh, I guess not. I guess not. Disregard. Oh, I know what it is. Sorry. It's, man, I can remember how to do this. I have to set up, give me a second. And by the way, I cut these streams at 2 hours, so we're about 6 minutes away. This stream is going to end here in probably 6 minutes, and then I take usually an hour break, go for a walk or a run. I might go for a run right now, and then I come back, and then we'll do part 4. So I keep kind of going through this. Oh, I have videos on this, Sean. I can help you out. Connect with me somewhere. Obviously, I'd love if you follow or subscribe on YouTube, but my social media, the easiest way is on Twitter, but also Instagram is fine. And also I have a Discord, which these chats get archived in. So if you ever like looking for links and stuff that I put, there's a few people that try to join here as much as they can. And there's a channel in my Discord where all of the conversations around these streams get dropped. So if I go, I think this should work. Try that. We can chat because I do this all the time, and I can definitely help you out. I can help you, figure out where to get the height maps. I use Gaia, which is I found to be the best. So if you know Gaia, or if you want to get it, I can show you the Gaia stuff. There's another stream I've done this. So I think if you look on my YouTube and scroll through the channels and look for this stream, it's not the best, but you actually can see me walking through the process. So if I go in here and I go to live, if I scroll down, it's this one. So see this Save the Seeds? This I use data from Norway and I bring it into Blender. Unreal Engine, similar. I don't know if I have a video doing that. Maybe one of the ones earlier down here. But I think if you go to, so let's get you this video first. No, that's not the right one. I think I had to think on this. Yeah, this is it. So start here for terrain stuff. And then if I go, I think way back here, I did something with Unreal Engine. I just can't remember. These things are not well organized. Blender. Yeah. I, this might be it. That would be what it is. Yeah, here we go. This is some stuff of me bringing in data from Cathedral Rock in Arizona into Unreal Engine and using Gaia. So you can go through some of that. I'll better organize it. Yeah, and this is the first time I've honestly really worked heavily with building data. So I'm kind of excited. Let me quickly just see if I can get this mist pass, and then I'm going to kill the stream because I don't want it to go over 2 hours. There's a way, and I can never remember where it is. There's a way to set the distance for the mist pass. Set distance for mist pass, Blender. Properties under the world tab. Yeah, I have. Man, I've gone down this rabbit hole. So, yes, I have, but yeah, the distance is, yeah, it is set. Remember if it's set on the camera or on the world settings. Yeah, it's this one. So you have to start it, say 5 meters, and you got to end it at however far this is. So you can kind of get an idea. These scales, I think, are 2 kilometer by 2 kilometer. And I just realized why they actually aren't exactly 2 by 2. But that's fine. I think that's just the way that... so I would say argue, how far is that? I'm sure you can measure it. Probably 5K. I know there is a thing though where you can show the actual line coming from the camera for the mist pass. I don't know. Anyway, I think that's going to work, though, at least to get something better. Yeah, I've gone down this rabbit hole, man. So the thing that I wanted, that I haven't quite got yet, but I know is an interesting technique, is to basically set your camera above and set the Z value, so like the height value of the objects in the scene, to the emission of the object. So what that will do is it'll emit a range from white to black for the height of that object, and then you render it from straight down as a orthographic view, and then you take that image and you bring it into Unreal Engine and you run the height map. That's one option. The other option is just export, the actual data and bring it in as a FBX and nanite it, turn it to nanite, but then it doesn't become an actual landscape. The third option, which I'm trying to do, which I think is the better option, would be to import a mesh from Blender to Gaia, use Gaia then to displace the terrain. So now you'll have the terrain in Gaia, and then export from Gaia the proper height map, fine-tuned to Unreal Engine, if you followed that. So I don't think I have a great system to do it, but it's definitely something I've explored. Okay, so there we go. So see now that we have a mist pass. Oh yeah, so there, see, that is kind of cool. And now I actually have, a proper image, and I can bring the mist into the viewer and to here, and you can like fine tune this and stuff. But this is what I've been kind of thinking about for AI, is to take this and give it this view and see if it can make something with this mist pass. So yeah, hang out, ask questions. My best thing would be to go in Discord and just kind of put the chats in there, because what happens is if you chat in Discord, it'll pop up on the screen, and if you chat in YouTube, it'll go into Discord. So it's like a full sync. So we've got like the whole history. And I'll slowly get better with organizing and clipping stuff. But if you stream or you reach out to me, I'm happy to give you any advice or help. And maybe probably more likely you'll be able to teach me some stuff too. Because there's a lot of things that I want to do that I really not 100% sure yet how they're going to go. So there it is. I'm going to take a break and go for a run. I'll be back in probably just over an hour. And then I'll keep streaming like this on and off until I have something that I can mint and share. So thanks for joining, Sean. Hopefully talk to you soon or see you on a